Hey everyone, welcome to this webinar. I am excited to share some findings from our recent research, as well as some of our emerging point of view on skills and work intelligence. Of course, we all know that AI is proliferating across the organization, and no conversation these days goes without the mentioning AI, right? So in terms of what we are planning to do today, we're going to be talking about skills and work intelligence, why they matter right now, how can the two solutions work together, and what does it look from a technology perspective, and what are the types of solutions out there in the market for HR leaders and business leaders to utilize to drive some of their priorities. So in terms of the workforce that we are seeing right now, we have to talk about the new work order, right? So as organizations strive to achieve increasingly complex business goals, the traditional idea of a one-size-fits-all workforce model no longer holds. Today's workforce is a blend of different worker types, and each comes with its own strategic value. We categorize them into four types: fixed employees, those in long-term stable roles with defined hours; flex workers, you think about consultants, gig workers, contractors who offer flexibility and expertise on demand. The third category is what we call agile employees. These are all internal talent who can move across projects and shift tasks dynamically. And finally, digital workers, such as AI assistants, Gen AI tools, copilots, robotic process automation, and even industrial bots as well. So one of the things that we want to talk about is, hey, how should HR leaders think about workforce DNA, not in terms of fixed categories, but as modular components that can be orchestrated based on outcomes. So one of the action items that I would have for HR leaders, such as yourselves, is to map your current workforce composition using the four categories to identify, what are the gaps and opportunities for introducing more agility or more automation. So not all organizations will be at the same stage or same level of maturity. So there will be a lot of organizations who are highly focused on the fixed type of workers, right? But as and when organizations have more AI integration and AI adoption, you'll start to see more digital workers, and in line with macro demands, etc. You'll also see flex workers and agile workers as such, right? Because of which we see a evolution in the role of a chief HR officer or chief people officer, right? So as the workforce evolves, so too does the role of the CHRO. We have seen this shift over four key phases. CHRO 1.0 is an operations focused role emphasizing compliance and basic HR efficiency. 2.0 will be more about more engaged, focusing on employee experience, but still somewhat siloed in its approach. CHRO 3.2, which is our current era, is where CHROs are becoming strategic leaders, deeply invested in optimizing the employee experience and aligning with business objectives. But CHRO 4.0 is where we are heading toward. In an AI-driven future, CHROs must go beyond managing human capital to orchestrating human AI collaboration. So here we talk about the objectives and challenges that different phases have gone through. So for example, from managing cost-intensive HR operations to enabling workforce transformation, data-driven AI integration, and tackling socio-ethical risks, the role of the CHRO or the HR function in general has evolved through the times, and it's only going to keep happening as we in the years coming by, right? So one of the things that I would encourage the attendees to look at is, evaluate your HR function's maturity using, for example, this model, and understand or define 2-3 strategic capabilities your HR team needs to strengthen in order to lead the AI-driven workforce transformation, and how can you ensure that humans and AI work together collaboratively to drive business outcomes. The shift we are seeing isn't just about tech. It's also about people. Organizations are now facing 5 critical imperatives. One is identifying where AI adoption makes the most sense, re-engineering job architecture, managing ethical challenges around AI, addressing skilled talent shortages, and crafting the right workforce strategy for the AI era, right? So now traditional hiring models and talent management models are struggling to keep up. That's why we are seeing a pivot towards a skills first approach. Many organizations have been on this journey for a long time, and they're starting to see returns right now. This convergence of skills intelligence and work intelligence, which we will cover in a lot more detail today, allows businesses to move from reactive HR operations to strategic data-driven workforce management. So one of the things that I would request HR leaders to think about is understand the impact of AI on work, right? So understand how your jobs and the work is actually evolving with more AI adoption. So how is your job evolving? What are the activities that you're doing right now versus what you're expected to do next year? Right. So understand what those capabilities are currently, what's missing, and where you would need upskilling or external hiring to support, the new way of work. So now we have the first poll of the day. So how prepared is your organization to adapt to rapid changes in skill requirements due to AI and automation? You would see the poll on your screen. So just think of this as a moment to, sort of introspect, take this as a moment of reflection. Where do you stand in preparing your workforce for the future? Just give the attendees few seconds to answer this. I think we have about 55% responses. Give it 10, 15 more seconds. Yeah. Yeah, so we have most of you in the somewhat prepared stage. I'm not surprised. We do have few people who are the not prepared state. I would use this response as a baseline to kick off some internal discussions with the leadership team about workforce readiness and prioritize a roadmap towards skills and work transformation. Right. So now, how do we sort of execute on some of these findings that we have, or some of the hypotheses that we have? So we talked about 2 key topics: skills intelligence and work intelligence. So Shikhar, what do you think about these 2 categories, these 2 concepts? How do you think they should work together to help organizations future-proof their workforce?
Yeah. Thanks, Sharath, and a very pertinent point that you raise. So we'll be, discussing this in greater detail as we move along this section. But just to give everyone a short answer, right? So what we think is no, your skill strategy as well as your work strategy cannot operate in silos. This might, lead to misalignment between talent and work strategy, as well as, impede in getting that holistic view on the supply and demand of talent and skills in an organization. So we'll double click on, each of these discussion points in the next section. So just moving on. Yeah. So one of the critical challenges that organizations face is to adapt their work and workforce strategies to align with the rapid technological disruptions that are happening, right? So one of the ways to navigate the uncertainty is to follow a structured approach as we have outlined in the graphic framework. So what this framework represents is that the key idea for the organization is to start with work and not job definitions and role hierarchies, right? So when you're defining your business outcomes and the ways to achieve those business outcomes, the key idea is to start with work, right? This task level clarity allows organizations to redesign the roles and processes from the ground up rather than simply relying on job titles and job descriptions. Uh, once you have defined the business outcomes based on specific tasks and jobs, the next step is to integrate task intelligence, right? Just to determine what tasks are human-centric, meaning the tasks that can be performed by humans, such as strategic decision making, mentoring, stakeholder engagement, etc. And the second set of tasks, right, which are automatable tasks, which can include routine and administrative tasks that can be automated using automation tools and bots. So work intelligence essentially identifies what are the tasks that can be automated using an AI or bots, and what are the tasks that are human centric and require human intervention and human support. And once this is defined, right, once tasks are allocated, the skills strategy kicks in. Rather than just putting people into generic jobs, skills intelligence identifies the specific skills needed for the human performed tasks and ensures that right people with the required skills are deployed. Or if the organization doesn't have those skills readily available in the organization, then certain initiatives around talent and skills development are uh, getting initiated upon. So what does this mean, right? So this combined approach of skills and work intelligence provides organizations greater workforce visibility and enables them to, take critical decisions around what should be their workforce strategy. So should they build, borrow, buy talent, or leverage automation tools and bot these tasks? So having a combination or having an amalgamated strategy of skills plus work intelligence helps organization make these critical decisions. So quickly moving on to what does this mean for an organization, right? Once an organization has taken a combined approach of amalgamating their work intelligence or work strategy with skill strategy. So as we discussed earlier, right, we don't see work intelligence, work strategy, or skill strategy operating in silos. Rather, we consider them as complementary halves of strategic workforce planning and work design strategies. So on one hand, we have work intelligence, which focuses on the work side or the work aspect of the process, which involves understanding tasks, processes, and how work should be designed or reallocated between humans and AI, and help enterprises answer some of the key questions around how is the work currently done in the organization, how can it be optimized for better outcomes, and how should the work be done in the future. On the other spectrum, we have skills intelligence, which focuses on the talent or the people side, which involves collecting and analyzing data on skills of individuals and roles within the organization. And skills intelligence, in a way, helps organization answer three critical questions, which involves, what skills does the organization currently has, or the individual currently have within the organization? What skills are needed now and in the future? And, what can the organization do to bridge the skills gap between the current level of skills availability versus the desired skills of the future? And when you amalgamate work intelligence and skills intelligence, you get workforce precision and agility, right? So by combining these two lenses, skills intelligence, which is essentially what people can do, and work intelligence, which essentially describes how work is done and evolving, organizations can move beyond the simplistic idea of merely closing the skill gap and instead ask deeper, more strategic questions, right? So CHROs and the HR leaders can embed themselves in more strategic thinking within the organization and assist in answering those key questions around how should we redesign the work and how do we then equip the workforce to thrive and develop in the redesigned work environment. So moving on, right? Uh, what what does it mean for the key stakeholders, right? So a skills plus work intelligence strategy not only assists the HR and TA leaders in some of their key priorities, but also addresses the concerns of a wider range of stakeholders within the organization. So for business leaders and business function, it enables efficiency and productivity gains through task optimization. It also business and market changes, as well as start those discussions around strategic role design, which are directly aligned with the business outcomes. For HR and TA leaders, a combined skills plus work intelligence strategy assess them in agile workforce planning and forecasting, effective talent deployment and resource management based on the skills and the task that needs to be accomplished, and a better alignment between workforce capabilities and strategic priorities. Uh, a combined skills plus work strategy also has significant implications for innovation and transformation offices, where it can assist the CIOs and CTOs to identify automation opportunities at the task level. Also, optimal also support optimal human AI collaboration, and as well as measure and reduce the risk of uh, potential pitfalls as well as increase adoption of technology investments related to AI and automation within the organization. And it also has, implications for the individual stakeholders as well. So by effectively mapping tasks to skills and analyzing the skill gaps at the individual level, it is able to provide employees with actionable growth opportunities to skill task matching, as well as provide those personalized L&D recommendations through precise skill task gap analysis, and also support meaningful discussions and engagement within the organization for the employees with their managers as well as the HR leaders. I think with this, we'll have the next poll question, the second poll question for the day. So yeah, so basically, how actively is your organization redesigning work to optimize human AI collaboration? So have you started with some of the pilot implementation? Are you there in the advanced adoption? Are you still planning? There have been no active discussions. So I think what this poll question will help you understand is where you are on this journey of thinking about optimizing human AI collaboration. Yeah. So I think most of the respondents have answered that you are in early exploration phase or in the pilot implementation, which is what we also expected.
But I do see few people in advanced adoption as well, Shikhar, which is good to see.
Yeah, yeah. It is interesting to see, how they are going about this journey of optimizing human AI collaboration. So while we have, another section to cover, we just wanted to bring this to everyone's notice, that we have opened a few slots exclusively to the attendees of this webinar. Uh, you can reach out to us to discuss more about integrating skills and work intelligence into your business strategies uh, via the link that is there that the team will share in the chat. So you can express your interest in getting to speak with key Everest Group analysts on understanding various ways of integrating skills and work intelligence within your business strategies. And with that, I'll pass it over to my colleague Varisha, who will guide us through how enterprises or organizations can go about building the technology ecosystem to support a skills plus work intelligence strategy. Over to you, Varisha.
Thanks for the context citing, Shikhar. So yeah, before we really deep dive into anything, I'll begin with the definition of skills intelligence first. So put it simply, skills intelligence platforms are solutions that help organizations to understand and manage the skills within their workforce. At the heart of these platforms is a centralized skills data layer. So it is essentially a unified source of truth for all the skills related data within an organization. So these platforms necessarily leverage a skills taxonomy, which is essentially a structured framework of skills that can be proprietary, third party, or even developed in-house, right? So this taxonomy enables companies to map, measure, and manage the skills of their workforce across various levels. It can be at the organizational level, team level, role level, even at individual employee or candidate levels, right? So other core capabilities, which is depicted by the light blue ring in the framework, include analytics and insights, relationships and adjacencies, and skills data management. These foundational elements allow organizations to build a robust and scalable skills infrastructure. Building on these core capabilities is now the dark blue outer ring, which highlights the extended capabilities of these platforms. This is where the organization really starts to see the real strategic value coming in. Of course, these platforms don't operate in silos. We have key enablers such as API integrations, data governance, skills harmonizations, AI and generative AI that help organizations to embed skills intelligence effectively across their entire talent lifecycle. Now we have to understand why is this even important. So today organizations are leveraging workforce strategies that are going beyond roles to now shifting towards skills. These platforms are not just any other new HR tool. They are the backbone of a modern skill-based organization. The unified data drives strategic decisions within the organization and also enable talent-centric transformation within, right? So moving on, work intelligence is an emerging solution category that helps organizations understand work and not just people in a very agile and data-driven manner. The core idea is to really enable smarter and more responsive workforce management by understanding how work gets really done across the entire enterprise. Think of it as more of an operational counterpart to skills intelligence platforms, but focused more on tasks, role, and workflows rather than just an individual's capabilities. The backbone of this work intelligence platform is again a very comprehensive work taxonomy. This taxonomy brings deep visibility into how work is being performed across teams, departments, and functions, and it is even contextualized to reflect industry specific workflows and organizational structures. So it forms the basic for decisions related to restructuring, automation, workforce planning, and now even AI human collaboration, right? So work intelligence platforms really offer a very powerful lens, I would say, to analyze and reimagine how work is being done, especially in the era where automation is now accelerating. With the rise of AI, generative AI, and now even agentic AI, these tasks are continuously being redistributed across humans and machines. So these platforms enable organizations to proactively orchestrate that redistribution between those humans and machines, redesign roles in real time, and also adapt to rapid shifts in scale, complexity, as well as technology now. So rather than reacting to disruption, what enterprises can now really do is they can anticipate and act with precision, so which will help them really unlock efficiencies, boost agility within the organization, and also drive measurable value, right? We have explored skills intelligence platforms, which really map what people are capable of, and also the work intelligence platforms that again map how work is getting performed. Now, when we talk about what really happens when we bring these two superpowers together, right? Both platforms offer powerful capabilities on their own, but the real power gets unlocked only when these two are integrated. So this really creates a seamless, intelligence-driven operating model across people, tasks, and technology. When we look at the foundational capabilities side by side of these two platforms, we can see they both share a very similar structural pillar, right? But very different focal points again. One focuses on people and then the other focuses on work. To bridge the gap between these two platforms, there is an integration layer which is essential. So this layer helps assimilate and synthesize data across the two domains, creating a very single sort of point of view of work to skills alignment, right? So these enablers make it really possible to help move organizations from a very static workforce planning to living, breathing enterprise intelligence. If you feel your enterprise is ready to unlock end-to-end visibility into how work is happening and how people are able to contribute to organization in real time, now we feel is the time to invest in this dual platform approach, which can be really powered by a very smart integration. Let's now look at what a very comprehensive and enterprise-wide ecosystem would look like when these platforms are combined across three critical layers: foundational, intelligence, and execution layers. So foundational layer is essentially the data bedrock, where high quality data sets the stage for all kind of intelligence. Data collection, skills architecture, work architecture, skills data governance are all a part of this layer. Without this layer, any intelligence or automation effort that an organization is bringing in risks at being fragmented and inaccurate, right? Moving on is the intelligence layer, where raw data is essentially being transformed into meaningful insights with the help of analytics and AI-powered engines. So this layer essentially enables smarter decisions at the speed of business. Finally is the execution layer, where insights are translated into real-world impact. This is where transformation becomes tangible, where the organizations see value coming in, where analytics is powering action, right? Together, these three layered skills intelligence ecosystem is really supporting critical enterprise use cases that are mentioned on the right. These use cases are no longer isolated functions. They are part of an interconnected intelligence framework, right, which are being updated in real time. Today, organizations like you have the opportunity to build their own skills data lake by aggregating information from various internal systems, such as HRISs, ATSs, LMSs, project management platforms. This unified skills repository that you're able to create, this can then be linked to your existing enterprise data platforms, such as your Workdays, SAPs, Snowflake, Databricks, enabling really downstream integrations within, right? However, the path here totally depends on your satisfaction with your current vendor, the availability of new useful functionalities that might be applicable to your business model, as well as the in-house capability that that can help you develop and maintain such a very heavy infrastructure, right? So therefore, it is critical for you to first assess your current technology ecosystem, your data maturity, your integration readiness as such, right? In many cases, organizations may even need to orchestrate a very hybrid sort of strategy where you're working with multiple vendors and developing some things in-house or bringing, an external expertise across various categories to assemble a very cohesive and scalable skills infrastructure of sorts, right? So next we have another and the last poll question of the day for you. So has your organization implemented any AI tools, AI-driven tools or platforms for your skills or work intelligence? So take a moment to select the option that best reflects your organization's current status. It will be interesting to understand where everyone stands in, their journey with when it comes to AI platforms. So just adding in, if you are in the early planning stages or just starting pilots, you're not alone. Many organizations are still currently in exploration mode, right? Especially as new AI capabilities keep coming in. And then we have the advent of generative AI, agentic AI, which are now opening up very fresh possibilities for organizations. For those of you who are already in the implementation stage, that's fantastic. Okay, so I guess the time is over. And then interesting to see that a lot of you are running pilots currently, with many AI-driven tools for work intelligence. So that's interesting to understand. And also for those who are planning, kudos to you and, just see how everything unrolls. You can totally see how these tools bring, transform your skills visibility, work allocation, and help you with strategic workforce planning. It's even interesting to see that 14% of you have already, implementation completed at your stage. So yeah, it's interesting. Okay. So Sharath, would you please like to summarize the key takeaways from this session for us?
Yeah, absolutely, Varisha. Yeah, so what we're trying to say as part of this webinar is, AI is here and it's real and it's going to impact the way you work. So what it needs is a complete redesign of the work, understanding what is something that AI can do, what is something humans can do, and how can you redesign the work based on that. Now, this could be based on, hey, where can I bring automation? What are those tasks that I might need to sort of outsource or offshore? What sort of work should be done by fixed employees? What should be the work that should be done by contractors? Are there any opportunities to merge certain roles? For example, there was an interesting conversation I had with a sales leader of a technology firm. They were saying, hey, my salespeople are doing 10 tasks. Marketing is doing 10 different tasks. But imagine AI is taking care of 50% of those tasks. Then is there a possibility that I could merge these two job roles into one? Right? So do I really need to go out in the market and hire one salesperson and one marketing person? Or can I think of a way to redesign the work and redesign the job architecture so that I can go into the market and hire just one resource or one person to do the job, right? So that's why we talk about the amalgamation of skill strategy and work strategy as a new cornerstone of the talent strategy, right? So understanding what work needs to be done next year or tomorrow is critical to understand what sort of skill strategy you need to take. For example, you might be training somebody on a particular tool or a particular skill set, but imagine the scenario where that person need not use that skill set next year because the tasks have changed so much. For example, hypothetically, if you're a diesel car manufacturing organization, you're training people on how do you build diesel engines, for example. But let's say next year you have completely done away with that and you're moving to an EV sort of an engine, right? So then your effort, time, money that you have spent on training these people on how to build a diesel engine is gone. So understanding what does the work look like in the future, at least in the near future, will help you decide what sort of skilling initiatives you need to take, what sort of internal mobility can you do, and what sort of hiring you need to take, right? So the other thing that you have to keep in mind is having that seamless data integration, understanding both at a task level and at a skill level, and having that unified view through a data lake or through seamless integration between multiple systems is definitely going to be key, right? And of course, skills intelligence is a much more known term. It's a more mature market compared to work intelligence. But it's also important to understand that work intelligence adds another layer to skills data. And that will help organizations reimagine and redesign the future of work, right? So as an HR leaders who have a say in the organization and influence in the organization, I would encourage all of you to read up a little bit more about work, skills, and then take this discussion forward, because what the work that you're going to be doing next year is going to be completely different than what you're doing today. Right. And with that, I think from a content perspective, we are done, but we do have few questions that we have received. So the first question is around, it's around EU Transparency Directive Act, right? So I think, Shikhar, you are very close to this space. So, how is the new EU Transparency Directive Act going to impact companies outside the EU?
Yeah, Sharath. So again, a very pertinent question in the current times of evolving the regulatory environment. So I think the EU Transparency Act is a broader regulatory framework that includes, certain elements of pay transparency, digital services, and platform work directive. So in terms of implications, right? So I think coming from the platforms and the enterprises point of view, when it comes to pay transparency, the enterprises need to review and adjust job posting policies to clearly incorporate pay range disclosures and employment conditions. Uh, Around the digital platform transparency, I think it is important to have that explainable AI algorithmic approach when they're implementing or either leveraging some of these AI algorithms for candidate sourcing, screening, or matching. Uh, as well as, from the enterprise perspective, they also need to invest in compliance technology and expertise just to ensure that the systems and processes that they follow are, in compliance with the evolving regulations, as well as there are, algorithmic audits at regular interval and pay equity assessments within the enterprises as well. And then finally, training and awareness, right? So both from the employees as well as the employers, it is important to educate uh, both the stakeholders on the transparency requirements and the individual rights that they have. So yeah, in terms of, EU Transparency and Digital Transparency Act, these are, some of the key considerations that the organizations both operating in EU as well as, having significant interests in EU are, can, follow when they're assigning their talent and workforce strategy. So Sharath, there was another question that we received. So if you could take that up. So the question is basically around beyond technology, what else do organizations need to prioritize when embracing a skills first approach? And how can they ensure they have a holistic approach to skills and talent?
Yeah, I think today we have talked a lot about technology, so I can understand where this question is coming from. Yeah, so tech and data is just one part of the equation. As with any transformational initiative, tech and data is definitely critical, but it's only one part. So I would say two other broad categories need to be prioritized or considered as you think about some of these initiatives. One is your operational considerations. So getting started is the most difficult part for many organizations. One thing to prioritize here would be to start incorporating skills logic into day-to-day operations, even the smallest of situations. So once few people start seeing how it's getting used, it builds momentum. Another major part of operations is to identify a highly engaged business leader to be the champion for skills initiative in the organization. The other one, beyond operational and tech and data consideration, I would say mindset and cultural considerations are also something that I have seen a lot of organizations completely ignore. So change management should be considered seriously as part of this. Getting employees buy-in and adoption is critical to the initiative's success. You also have to answer the question, what's in it for me? So unless you figure out a way to, motivate employees to start using some of the, skills related functionalities that the organization is bringing in, they wouldn't really adopt any of these platforms. They wouldn't really talk about it. They will just think of it as, hey, just another initiative the organization is undertaking, right? So understanding what's in it for the employees, and you'll have to communicate it to them in some shape or form, right? Either it's an incentive, either it's some sort of reward, or you have to communicate how it helps them grow in their career. The last thing I would say is a solid skills governance should be prioritized. as you think about becoming skills-based organization, it'll help solve many problems in one go. So having that team structure, a core team with clearly defined roles and responsibilities, approval, workflows, everything would be required if this has to really scale up and become successful. I've talked to a lot of organizations who have implemented it, or even if you look at the pilots that they have done, they have faltered after a point in time. Initially, they would have seen some signs, positive signs, but they have not really been able to scale up, and really get that ROI.
Yeah. So I think, Sharath, we can take a couple of more questions. So I think another question that we have got is around how most organizations started with grassroots efforts or executive sponsorship. Presuming executive sponsorship, who beyond the CHRO is most critical to gaining traction?
Okay. So let me take that. I can share my initial thoughts. So of course, HR will be a key part of the of the initiative, but the most successful companies in skills transformation, they have the business leader as the champion. They're not just involved in sharing their thoughts, but they are the ones who are actually championing it. They are the sponsor. They are the ones that are actually reaping the benefits from all of these initiatives. The other stakeholder group, or what I would recommend organizations to look at, is having center of excellences or strategy groups for skills. We have seen some organizations opening positions for such as chief skills officers or chief work officer. So if you want to combine both work and skills, think about how that would look like for your organization. Even chief work officer or chief productivity officer is something that I have seen. So somebody who has visibility into both how work is changing and what should be those capabilities from a skills perspective to enable that seamless transition to the new order of work, I would encourage to have somebody with that responsibility as well. Of course, you can't ignore the IT team or the data analyst team. They'll definitely have to be involved at some point. But I would say the trigger should ideally be coming from the business, right? And of course, HR can play a role, but it shouldn't become another HR initiative. It should be a business initiative. I think yeah, I think this is one interesting question. Shikhar, I would ask you to share your point of view on this. So we talked about skills intelligence, work intelligence. I think the question is more around the vendor landscape. Okay. So what sort of providers are there in skills intelligence? So what should organizations look for from a vendor landscape perspective?
Yeah. I think fair question, Sharath. And given there are umpteen number of platforms and new platforms coming into play into the market that claim to have skills intelligence and work intelligence capability. So yeah, from our perspective, we see three broad categories of platforms play in the market. So first are your API ontology or data only providers that provide a skills ontology or a work intelligence ontology as a standalone offering, which then plugs into the existing HR and TA technology ecosystem that an organization has, uh, gathers the data from those systems, runs the ontology API and intelligence engine, and then pushes that intelligence back into those platforms to assist in skills enabled and work intelligence enabled decision making within those platforms. So this is the first category of platform vendors that we see out there in the market. The second is around the platforms who are coming from a talent acquisition heritage, uh, who have been traditionally focusing on talent acquisition capabilities, like candidate experience management, candidate attraction, sourcing, screening, assessment platforms. They are also now developing a skills first approach to sourcing, screening, and matching talent. So this is another category of platforms that focus mainly on talent acquisition use cases with certain applications on talent management side as well, right? And then the third category of platforms is again the platforms who have been traditionally more focused on talent management capabilities, such as internal mobility, talent marketplaces, learning and development platforms, employee engagement systems. So the likes of it, right? Who are again developing those skills intelligence capabilities and leveraging that intelligence to guide certain decision making and use cases within their platforms, right? So in terms of internal talent marketplaces, it can include skill based candidate matching, skill based team management, skill based resource allocation. For L&D it can be around you know curating and developing those personalized L&D initiatives and skilling, reskilling paths for the employees based on the skills that they have, skills and proficiency level that they currently have versus what is desired out of them, right? And then performance management, career pathing, succession planning. These are the other application or use cases of skill-based talent management platforms. But again, right, looking at it in terms of silos or point solutions is not enough, right? Given how pervasive your skills data is, as well as how it ties back to business outcomes through work intelligence, there's a need to take a holistic view, right? And for that perspective, I think we have recently published our peak metrics assessment that covers the skills intelligence vendor landscape. And I think that can be a good reference material for the attendees who have joined our call today.
Thanks, Shikhar, for sharing your perspectives on that. Yeah, I echo your comments. It's a very vibrant and dynamic vendor ecosystem. An organization should, understand their current landscape as well to figure out, whether they need to go with a totally different provider or can the existing providers also support them in some of these initiatives, right? And but if not, do they already have IT capabilities to build something on their own, right? So it's a combination of everything, I would say. But yeah, thanks, Shikhar, for sharing your thoughts. Thanks, Varisha, for going through some of the technology aspects of skills and work intelligence. I hope all of you found the webinar helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And that brings us to the end of this webinar. Thanks, everyone.